Every organization that uses technology faces cyber risk. Customer records, account numbers and passwords, credit card data, private health information, business financial information, trade secrets, authentication credentials, and employee records are all at risk. Evaluating your cyber exposure and covering your assets with cyber liability insurance is a critical part of your risk management. Please welcome Goodell DeVries Managing Partner, Linda Woolf.
Good afternoon. I'm Linda Woolf from Goodell DeVries in Baltimore, and I have with me today Howard Pinsky. Howard is a Assistant Vice President at Ironshore Pro Claims. He is responsible at Ironshore for handling D&O and EPL and fidelity claims, but most importantly for today, Howard has been involved in drafting cyber liability policy forms, and he regularly works with underwriters in assessing and managing risk for cyber policies. And he regularly speaks on these topics, and he's here today to share some of his insights from the trenches. So, this morning Tony told us about who the hackers are, how they do what they do, and the effects that what they do can have on your companies. So the potential exists in every size company, in every industry, in every business. We have here today in this audience alone representatives from healthcare, insurance, financial services, retail, automotive, manufacturing, and hospitality industries, just to name a few. And I would suspect that each of you are aware of some company within your field who has been the subject of some kind of breach or hacking or otherwise has lost control of confidential information in their possession. If you don't, you probably will in the near future. Within the health insurance or the healthcare field alone, there have been very high-profile examples of breaches. One, Anthem Health, where the dates of birth, social security numbers, subscriber IDs for 79 million subscribers were put at issue. Closer to me, geographically anyway, Care First of Maryland was breached and lost the name, dates of birth, and other information for over 1 million subscribers. Healthcare, as you saw in Tony's graphic this morning, is the field which is most frequently breached. And that's because, as Howard can share with you, health records have the highest value on the black market, which you might not originally or you might not suspect. But one health record on the black market is worth $250. But when you multiply that by the number of health records that may be involved in a single breach, you're up in the stratosphere in terms of value. Howard?
Hi, everybody. Linda makes a good point. The records that are available on the Darknet, that's the black market on the internet, it's called, for those who don't know. The Darknet records go for generally $300+ for a health record, some personal information, PCI information, payment card industry. Those records are going into $100 to $200 per record. And when businesses are hacked and those records are breached, they get sold rather quickly, and that's where the costs go up. So per record, it is a very expensive and very lucrative business on the Darknet.
And it's not just publicly held companies that are at risk. As we have heard in recent days, government agencies, the IRS lost information for 100,000 taxpayers. More recently, the Office of Personnel Management was disclosed that it had lost information related to 40 million current, former, and potential federal employees.
If you're not, so I think a lot of people are probably asking then if the Department of Defense and other government agencies are getting hacked, what can you do about it? Can you stop it from happening? And I was speaking at a conference with an FBI director, and it was the most compelling thing I ever heard, where he said there's only two types of people in this world, those who have been hacked and those don't know that they've already been hacked. And that's a scary thought because it's all out there. And everybody, I'm sure at some point, has gotten an email from somebody claiming to be a barrister from England, and if you send $1.3 million over their way, you know, you're gonna be in for 3.7, you're gonna get triple the amount. That's a phishing scam, and that is one of the most opportunistic ways that hackers get into your systems.
So these disclosures can occur from the hackers or by the hackers and as a result of what they do, but they can happen in other ways. You can have a problem with your system which ends up putting up on the internet information related to your customers or clients that is private. Information can be disclosed when it's outsourced. There are negligent insiders. An example of this was an individual who left his computer, his laptop, on a commuter train. Well, it happened to have the personal health information for hundreds and if not thousands of individuals on that computer. You can have malicious insiders. An example would be a hospital employee who deliberately sold health information for profit. Backup tapes can fall out of a transport van. That occurred, happened to have a lot of health information on it.
I mean, and just going with what the prior presentation, if you think about the expansion of technology and the use of everyday business and the legal profession and business-to-business transactions, the amount of information that is contained on one person's BlackBerry or an iPhone is incredible. I mean, we get confidential emails, lawyers as general counsel or in any respect, you're getting an incredible amount of sensitive data, and it's all out there. You know, if you're sitting in a Starbucks and you're using their Wi-Fi, is it encrypted? Is your data safe? Is it protected? These are all questions that are ongoing, and it's still to be determined on the expansion of the legal protections available.
We've all heard the numbers, and Tony had them up this morning. Here they are again. We know what this has cost Target, Home Depot, Sony, but they are not the only types of organizations that are being hit and having it cost them great deals of money. Nonprofits are the subject of these attacks. There is a small organization in northern Idaho, I think it's called Hospice of Northern Idaho, which was fined $50,000, which for it was a very large sum because health information that it had was disclosed. So again, it's any business, any size, every industry.
And notably, all three of these companies do have insurance, cyber-liability insurance, that doesn't even approach the amounts that are listed on the board right there.
So that gets us to our topic that we are here today to talk to you about. How do you protect yourself? Well, there's a number of ways you can protect yourself. The most important of which may be cyber liability insurance. So cyber insurance can protect a company from both direct and indirect first-party losses as well as exposure to third-party liability. The first-party losses tend to be expenses associated with rebuilding your network or business interruption, the profits that are lost while your network is down. Third-party liability we heard about this morning, and it is the sums that a company may be required to pay as a result of having disclosed confidential information of its clients and customers.
Yeah, and I think what cyber liability insurance policies do, I think the most tantamount value is in the first party loss. The third party losses are still, they're all in the courts. They're all being, I'm sure you've heard about after the Anthem breach, there were 39 class actions filed within 7 days, which begs to question the amount of due diligence being done by the attorneys involved. But the 39 class action lawsuits, and what is the damage? The information gets out there, your health information's out there. Do you know if it's been used yet within 7 days? Do you even know when the breach occurred? And these are all questions that are out there, but the important thing, and this is what Linda touched on earlier, is what is a cyber liability insurance covering? For the small, not-for-profit industry, you have to, any industry really, any company is required to notify each and every customer that it has that's been affected or may have been affected. And that could reach into the several thousand to millions. Everybody heard, I think Target was 70 million people that lost their payment card information. The average cost of a notification is like $1.50 for 70 million people. If you got touched, and that's just notifying your clients, your customers, and you have to comply with each state's notification laws because each state has different laws. So, can you afford that risk?
One point that you can take away is that your typical CGL policy will not cover cyber liability exposure, either first party or third party. All the reasons for that are in the papers, and so we're going to pass over that rather quickly now. But basically, cyber information that's stolen is not generally considered property damage. So it's not within coverage A, it's not within coverage B, because most courts have found that it's not a publication. There's a few courts that have gone the other way. But forward-thinking companies are purchasing cyber liability insurance and protecting themselves in the proper way. Now, because these policies are new and because they cover a highly technical area, the underwriting process is very different, perhaps, than when you're applying for your CGL coverage, your D&O, and other coverages. The underwriting is very specific and it's highly technical. The underwriters want to know, what security policies do you have in place? What do you do to enforce them? Do you do regular reassessments? Do you control the information within your organization? Have you implemented these policies? And do you require third parties with whom you deal to treat your information confidentially? Most of us who have health information within our networks deal with other vendors with whom you put in place business associate agreements to protect HIPAA-protected information. But those types of agreements have to be put in place with those who have access to the personal information that may be within your company.
I'll tell you, one of the largest hacks that, one of them was referenced on the board earlier, and for the sake of, I don't know if it's confidential or not, but I won't name which one, but one of the largest hacks occurred because the vendor didn't have proper safety protections in their own system. When a hacker got into them, they used their key network and key ID information to access one of the major companies at stake, and then there's 40 million records out there in the Darknet somewhere being sold.
And these are some of the questions that the underwriters will want to know in the application process. The application for cyber liability is comprehensive. It's a risk assessment exercise. That is in much more detail, perhaps, than you may be used to. But what it will compel you to do is to look at the security policies and procedures that you have in place. If you don't have them, you will devise them. And then the follow-up is they need to be implemented. So if you get through the application process, what will cyber liability insurance cover you for? Well, defense and indemnity in third-party lawsuits, notification and crisis management expenses, which, as Howard said, can be very, very high. But these policies will also provide you with access to experienced resources, such as forensic companies and public relations companies that will manage the breach if one occurs. These policies cover you for business interruption and extra expense. If you buy it, you will have coverage for extortion demands where you are subject to some demand that for money in exchange for not disclosing your information or freeing it up. Vandalism, damages caused to your hardware, to your network, and again, if you purchase it, cyber terrorism coverage.
And I'll, just for a better understanding of the extortion, some of you may have heard of the website Ashley Madison, and they've actually been hacked. They got all of the users or the members' IDs and all their information, and they've threatened to disclose all of that information out there to whomever needs to know, likely spouses, and unless they get paid several $1 million. If you purchase it, that kind of extortion threat is actually covered under liability, under a cyber liability policy. And it becomes a question is, do you pay it? Is it just a threat? Is it an empty threat? And what's the value to your business? Because one of the biggest things I think every company is concerned about is churning. And when you have a breach, it's out there. Are people afraid of losing those customers? And part of what Linda said, some of the liability insurance policies cover is public relations. And companies like Ironshore, other ones are out there, have access to public relations firm. We call it spin doctor coverage to try and spin a better view of a company that does get hacked in these types of situations.
And these are the services that you are entitled to under most cyber policies, as well as pre-claim services, which can be provided, as Howard knows, through policies, which will dramatically reduce, particularly the indirect expenses, if it's provided by your insurer. So, cyber liability insurance is not a substitute for closing the gaps in your cybersecurity. It's a backup in case you are breached. And that was illustrated by a case that's now working its way through the courts where involving CNA and its insured cottage health system, where CNA has disputed coverage because it contends that its insured did not implement the security measures that it attested that it had in the application process. So although the insured said it had certain security policies and procedures in place, the contention is that it did not implement these policies. So again, having the cyber policy is important, but it's not a substitute for implementing the cyber security policies and having a security officer and having the policies and educating your people.
And particularly having a breach response plan and a team. And so it's basically, I call it the fire drill. Everybody hates a fire drill. It's annoying, it interrupts your day, you don't want to get off the phone, you don't want to finish your email. But you have it there for a reason. And if you don't practice it, when something happens, it gets chaotic. It's the same thing with the breach response plan. It's like I said earlier, everybody's been hacked. It's out there. Whether or not it's being used or not is another story, but it's there. And when the hack is occurring and the breach actually occurs, are you going to be prepared for it? And that's what cyber liability insurance policies seek to do, is to make sure, is to help you be prepared and then to help you after the breach occurs.
Just going through the process of applying for and obtaining cyber insurance will compel you to focus on your potential exposures. It will help you identify the holes maybe in your cybersecurity program, and it will make you familiar with the policies, procedures that you can use to protect yourself from attacks and protect yourself if an attack occurs. Thank you.